In case you were wondering, yes, we build models at a bank. You would actually be surprised how many times I get that question and what percentage of the time people are surprised that we actually do things within the large banking system. But Sarah, banks are big, old, soulless corporations. What possibly could you be doing? Well, do you know what big, old, soulless corporations all have in common? Well, one, they're full of dinosaurs with old school ways of thinking. But most importantly, just waiting for my timer. I promise you, this will go more smoothly. Data, 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 data. And if you have so much data at your fingertips, what are you going to do with it? You're going to build models. So, what kind of models are we actually going to build? Well, let's consider little Timmy here. Let's say little Timmy is going to go to school, and school's expensive, so he takes out a loan to buy books. Model. He needs a credit card. Model. He wants to build his credit score. Model. He also wants to party on spring break, and so there might be a model involved in that as well. Little Timmy graduates, he's feeling really good about his job prospects, and he decides that he's gonna, for the first time in his life, he's gonna buy his very first own car. Model. I think you guys are catching on here, right? Now, little Timmy is actually pretty ambitious, and he decides that he actually wants to continue going to school and become a dentist. Now, becoming a dentist, that is expensive. So he decides to take out a professional loan. Model. Once he graduates, he becomes a dentist, he starts working, he actually wants to take over his own practice, and that actually, again, still takes money, so model. Along the way, he gets married, he buys a house, model, takes out a home equity line of credit so that he can do some renovations on that house, model, misses a few payments, model, but he gets back on track really, really quickly, model. So, where does it all begin? To be completely honest, I probably spend the vast majority of my time in the strategy and the planning phase. If you ask me what I do on a day-to-day basis, the reality is I probably just send emails and respond to messages all day long. But once I'm done the 30,000, 1,700 days of planning, we get to embark on the really exciting part of actually procuring the data. Now, sometimes it's in-house, and sometimes we actually have to go out and buy the data, and hopefully we make up the data a minimal amount of times. Once we are onto there, this is the fun stuff. This is, if they were going to make movies about data scientists, the montage is going to be like reading research papers and experimenting on models and creating scorecards and putting them all together in an ensemble model. But the reality is, while we might think that that's 90% of the time, the reality is that that's about 10. Now, when it comes to the validation team, there's actually teams at the bank that actually sit there and actually try to rebuild your model from scratch. Make sure that you're using the right data, the right sources, the right documentation, and try to build something better. They come and they ask really annoying questions like why, how, why, when. And then they end up saving us lots of money in the future, and we're still pretty ungrateful about it in the end. When it comes to the implementation, that is actually a lot trickier than it thinks. It needs a lot of time, money, resources to be able to put that on a system. And quite frankly, it depends on everything from your product to how complicated your model is to probably the angle that the sun and moon is making as your model is deployed on specific systems. Once we actually get to past the implementation stage, and I have a model that is deciding whether or not you get a loan to actually put all of that data inside a system somewhere so that you can actually gamble it away in the stock market, what happens is I'm monitoring that on a daily basis, and somebody actually reads those reports. I do, and I have to, and I send them to the regulators, and the regulators are actually reading those reports on a regular basis. After that point, the regulators. Let's talk about the regulators. As you can see earlier, what happens is the regulators are always ensuring that our banking system is not on fire and that if in case a recession comes around or in case there's a pandemic or a bad CEO wants to take all your money and gamble it away on weird crypto coins that nobody ever knows, that actually never happens because now there's a sudden interest in things like planning and life savings and retirement savings and provisions. And who knew that would be the backbone of our financial system within the industry? So when all is said and done, That is the model lifecycle at a bank within 5 minutes, and thank you so much for your time today.